Help! Get me out of here! Please help! Over here! We're coming!
On December 26, 2004, at 9:15 in the morning, on Patong Beach, the sea receded 100 meters in 5 minutes. People rushed towards the exposed water, cameras in hand. No one shouted to evacuate. The silence lasted 7 minutes. And eventually, it wasn't just one or two, but thousands of people who left the safety of the beach. Cell phones and cameras were at the ready. No one suspected it wasn't an exceptionally low tide, nor a fascinating natural phenomenon. 35 minutes later, when the edge of the seabed was already visible, the real sea returned. 48 hours earlier, on December 24th, the beaches of Phi Phi, Phuket, and Khao Lak were at peak capacity for high season. 18,000 tourists in Patong alone. Hotels had 100% occupancy in their beachfront rooms, the most expensive, the closest to the water. Not a single tsunami siren was installed along the entire coast. Thailand had no seismic alert system connected to the Indian Ocean. Evacuation protocols did not exist. Hotel employees had never been trained to recognize tsunami signs. The region hadn't experienced a significant event in 100 years, and alert infrastructure was considered an unnecessary expense. The morning of December 26th was promoted as perfect for water activities. Calm sea, clear sky. Restaurants on the promenade served breakfast with tables directly on the sand. At 7:59 in the morning, a magnitude 9.1 earthquake struck the coast of Sumatra, 1,600 kilometers away. It was recorded by international seismic stations. No Thai authorities were notified. What followed was not a natural accident. It was the result of ordinary administrative decisions, repeated for decades. Decisions that positioned thousands of people exactly where the first wave would hit first. In 1998, the Thai government approved the Tourism Development Master Plan for Phuket Province. The goal was to double hotel capacity in 5 years, transforming fishing villages into international destinations. Khao Lak, a coastal strip north of Phuket, went from having 3 small resorts in 1995 to 18 luxury complexes in 2004. All were built less than 50 meters from the high tide line. The logic was simple. Tourists paid more for rooms with sea views. The closer to the water, the higher the nightly price. The Sofitel Magic Lagoon in Khao Lak charged $340 per night for its frontline bungalows, double what it charged for inland rooms. In Patong, the Meridian Phuket had 170 beachfront rooms, all booked 6 months in advance for the December high season. It was a perfect equation. Proximity to water equals maximum profitability. But no one calculated the risk. In 2001, Thailand's Department of Mineral Resources received a report from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. The document warned that the Thai west coast was in a moderate seismic risk zone and recommended the installation of oceanic detection buoys and coastal siren systems. The estimated cost was $4.2 million to cover Phuket province. The report was filed away. The official justification: there had been no record of a significant tsunami in the region for over 100 years. The budget was reallocated to international tourism promotion. Thawatchai Somboon had worked as the security coordinator for the Khao Lak Beach Resort since 1999. In an interview after the disaster, Thawatchai described the resort's emergency protocol: fires, food poisoning, pool accidents. Tsunami was not in the manual. When asked if he had ever received training on coastal evacuation, He replied that the word tsunami was never mentioned in the 5 mandatory annual trainings. Thawatchai didn't know what a tsunami was until December 26, 2004. It wasn't personal negligence, it was systemic absence. Since 1965, the Pacific Tsunami Warning System had monitored underwater seismic activity in 26 coastal countries. When an earthquake of magnitude greater than 7.0 occurred under the ocean, the system issued automatic alerts to receiving stations in Hawaii, Japan, Chile, Alaska, and the west coast of the United States. The average time between detection and alert was 12 minutes. In 1996, after the tsunami that devastated Papua New Guinea, the system expanded coverage to the South Pacific. Indonesia, Thailand, India, and Sri Lanka were not included. The official reason: the Indian Ocean had not recorded catastrophic seismic activity since 1883. The decision was based on incomplete historical data. The Sumatra earthquake of December 26, 2004, was the third most powerful recorded since 1900. It released energy equivalent to 23,000 atomic bombs, like the one in Hiroshima. The tectonic fracture measured 1,300 kilometers in length, displacing the seabed 15 meters vertically. It generated a tsunami with waves up to 30 meters high on the northern coast of Sumatra. The epicenter was 1,600 kilometers from Phuket. The Pacific Warning System detected the earthquake at 8 o'clock and 1 minute in the morning, Thailand time, 2 minutes after it occurred. But Thailand had no receiving station. The information reached the Geophysical Data Center in Hawaii. It reached Tokyo. It reached the Solomon Islands. It did not reach Bangkok. It did not reach Phuket. It did not reach any point on the Indian Ocean coast with infrastructure to process it. When system scientists tried to contact Thai authorities by phone, it was already 9:43 in the morning. The first wave had hit Patong 28 minutes earlier. In Khao Lak, Michael Dobbs, a British journalist on vacation with his family, was walking on the resort beach at 9:10 in the morning. The sea was unusually calm. No waves, no foam. Dobbs later described a feeling of absolute silence, as if the ocean had stopped breathing. At 9:17, the water began to recede. Dobbs saw the exposed seabed for the first time. Anchored boats lay on wet sand. Large fish thrashed in puddles. His 7-year-old son ran towards the water, screaming excitedly. Dobbs didn't know what he was seeing, but something in his instinct told him to run in the opposite direction. He grabbed his son and ran inland, shouting at other tourists to do the same. Most ignored him. Some laughed. Dobbs reached the 3rd floor of the hotel when the first wave hit. From the window, he saw the water sweeping people, cars, and entire bungalows out to sea. The son he had saved cried, asking where the other children from the beach were. Dobbs had no answer. What you've just heard reveals how ordinary administrative decisions paved the way for an avoidable tragedy. If this historical reconstruction is changing how you understand what happened that morning, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because what comes next documents those final hours with a level of detail built from testimonies, official reports, and records from that time. Tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. 24 hours before the sea pulled back, the Sofitel Magic Lagoon Hotel in Khao Lak booked its last available room for the high season. Room 312, a direct ocean view, 75 meters from the bed to the high tide line. The guest who confirmed that reservation was a 42-year-old British engineer named Martin Walsh. He was traveling with his wife and 2 children. He specifically requested the ground floor. He wanted direct access to the beach without having to use any stairs. The receptionist noted the request as a VIP preference. What Martin didn't know What no guest at that hotel knew was that the Sofitel's ground floor had been built in violation of the Coastal Zoning Code, approved in 1993. That code established a minimum distance of 100 meters between any habitable structure and the high tide line. The Sofitel was built at 75. The permit was approved with a special exemption justified by strategic tourism interest. 3 officials from the Department of Coastal Development signed the document. None of them lived in Khao Lak. On the morning of December 25th, the hotel staff set up beach chairs and umbrellas on the sand, following standard high-season protocol. 184 chairs, spaced 3 meters apart. The front row was 12 meters from the water. Early arriving tourists competed for those spots. The ones closest to the sea were the most coveted. By 8 in the morning, the front row was already full. German, Swedish, and British families were applying sunscreen while their children ran toward the waves. But there was one detail that neither the staff nor the guests noticed. The sea was unusually calm. A local fisherman named Thawatchai Somboon had been working in Khao Lak since 1978. That morning, on the 25th, as he prepared his boat on the beach next to the Sofitel, he observed something he hadn't seen in 26 years. The waves were breaking in a different pattern, slower, more spaced out, as if the ocean were taking shallower breaths. Thawatchai mentioned this to another fisherman. They both agreed it was strange. Neither of them knew that this pattern was a sign that the seafloor had already begun to shift. 1,600 kilometers to the west. At 10 in the morning, the Sofitel's restaurant served the last breakfast of the Christmas season. A full buffet. Tables with an ocean view were completely booked. Martin Walsh and his family sat at table 7, the one closest to the large window that looked directly out onto the beach. His youngest son, who was 7, asked if he could go play in the sand while they waited for their food. Martin said yes. From the window, he could see him building sandcastles less than 20 meters away. This was exactly what the hotel promised in its promotional materials: proximity, direct access, the beach as an extension of your room. But that proximity, that promise of tourist convenience, was designed without considering a variable the architects never included in their blueprints: evacuation speed. In 2002, Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok published a technical study on evacuation capacity in coastal tourist areas. The paper analyzed how long it would take to evacuate a fully occupied hotel in the event of a coastal emergency. The conclusions were clear. A hotel with over 100 occupied rooms would need between 12 and 18 minutes to evacuate completely, provided the exits were clearly marked and the staff was trained. The Sofitel Magic Lagoon had 200 rooms. It had no evacuation signs in either Thai or English. The staff had never received training in coastal emergency protocol. The study was shelved. Not a single hotel chain implemented it. At 11:30 in the morning on December 25th, the Sofitel's manager sent an internal email to the reception and restaurant staff. The message contained a single instruction: tomorrow, December 26th, promote morning beach activities. Optimal conditions for snorkeling and boat rides. Calm sea confirmed by the harbor master. The email was forwarded to all guests with active reservations. Martin Walsh received it at 11:45. He confirmed with his wife. They would go to the beach early tomorrow. That night, 18 hotels in Phuket, Phi Phi, and Khao Lak sent similar emails. They all promoted the morning of the 26th as ideal for water activities. The weather conditions were perfect. Water temperature at 28 degrees Celsius. Excellent underwater visibility. It was the combination tourists hoped for. None of those emails mentioned that there was no tsunami warning system in operation. None mentioned that the last update to the Coastal Emergency Protocol had been made in 1987, 17 years earlier, and that this protocol did not include the word tsunami. At 6 in the morning on December 26th, the Sofitel staff began preparing the breakfast buffet and setting up the beach chairs in their usual positions. 184 chairs, the front row 12 meters from the water. The sky was clear. The sea remained unusually calm. Martin Walsh woke up at 7:15. From the window of room 312, he saw the chairs already arranged on the sand. He woke up his children. He told them to hurry. They wanted to get there early to claim the best spots. At 7:59, as Martin and his family were heading down to the restaurant, a magnitude 9.1 earthquake shook the floor of the Indian Ocean off the coast of Sumatra. The rupture released energy equivalent to 23,000 atomic bombs. The vertical displacement of the seafloor was 15 meters in some places. In Khao Lak, no one felt a thing. The Sofitel Magic Lagoon continued to serve breakfast. The beach chairs waited on the sand. The calm sea reflected the clear sky. There was 1 hour and 16 minutes to go. At 7:59 in the morning, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii detected the Sumatra earthquake. Magnitude 9.1. The operator on duty consulted the standard protocol and marked only the Pacific coasts as a risk zone. The Indian Ocean was not on the alert recipient list. For the next 86 minutes, no Thai authority received official notification. But someone knew. Smith Dharma Saroja, a meteorologist at the Thai Meteorological Department, had warned in 1998 about the possibility of a tsunami on the Andaman coast. He was ignored. His colleagues considered the risk statistically insignificant. That morning of December 26th, Dharma Saroja was on vacation in Bangkok, 500 miles from the beaches. When he saw the first images of the earthquake on television, he tried to contact the National Disaster Management Office. He received no answer. It was a public holiday. In Phuket, at 8:43 in the morning, the manager of the JW Marriott Hotel in Patong Beach was reviewing the day's weather report. Clear skies, 5-knot wind, minimal swell. He approved the opening of all water activities for 9 o'clock. 187 guests had booked kayaking, snorkeling, or diving lessons. The hotel beach was 10 feet above sea level, with a gentle slope extending 200 yards to the water. No one at the hotel knew an earthquake had occurred. The information existed, but it hadn't arrived. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center had issued a technical bulletin at 8:14 in the morning, intended for geophysics institutes. Thailand did not have an institute connected to the network. Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok received the bulletin, but it was Sunday. The lab was closed. The email remained unread for 4 hours. At 9 o'clock in the morning, on Patong Beach, south of Phuket, a British diving instructor named Ian was preparing equipment for a morning dive with 6 tourists. He checked the oxygen tanks, adjusted the regulators, verified the pressure. The sea was perfectly calm. Ian had dived in those waters for 7 years. He knew every coral formation, every current, every tidal variation. That morning he noticed nothing unusual. The water began to recede at 9:15. Ian watched as the sea level dropped, slowly at first, then accelerating. In less than 3 minutes, the coastline receded 50 yards. Tourists began walking onto the exposed sand. Ian shouted. He ordered them back. He ran to the nearest hotel, but found no one with authority to activate an evacuation. There was no protocol. There was no siren. There was no emergency radio. Ian made a decision. He grabbed the 6 tourists and ran inland, without explaining, without waiting for a response. He climbed the hill behind the hotel. The tourists protested. One of them, a 52-year-old German man, stopped, and demanded an explanation. Ian pushed him. He literally pushed him uphill. They kept running. They reached an elevation of 65 feet above sea level. 4 minutes later, the first wave reached Katanoi. Ian saved 6 people because he recognized a pattern that was not in any Thai diving manual. He had read about the Papua New Guinea tsunami in 1998. He knew the sea recedes before it strikes. But Ian was an exception. Most tourist staff on Thai beaches had received no tsunami training, not because they were negligent, but because the risk was not documented in official protocols. In Khao Lak, 12 miles north, the situation was different. The Khao Lak Beach Resort had 240 guests that morning. 163 were having breakfast at the beachside restaurant when the sea receded. The hotel manager saw the phenomenon from the reception, but didn't know what it meant. He called the local police. The line was busy. He called the provincial tourism department. No one answered. For 7 minutes, the manager waited for instructions that never came. Guests left the restaurant and walked onto the exposed seabed. There were fish trapped in shallow puddles. Children ran collecting shells. A Swedish photographer set up his tripod to capture the image. The manager shouted from the reception, but the wind carried his voice in the opposite direction. He ran to the beach. He reached 37 people. He ordered them back to the hotel. Most obeyed, some stayed. The Swedish photographer did not return. At 9:22 in the morning, the first wave reached Khao Lak with a height of 40 feet. The Khao Lak Beach Resort was destroyed in 45 seconds. 111 guests died. The manager survived, clinging to a palm tree. For the next 3 days, he would repeat the same phrase to rescue teams. He didn't know what to do. There was no protocol. That phrase appeared in 73 official testimonies recorded during the following weeks. I didn't know what to do. The tragedy in Thailand was not the absence of technical information. It was the absence of translating that information into actionable steps. The earthquake was detected. The risk was calculated. But between the scientific data and the person on the beach, there was no bridge. There was no system. There was no training. And in those 7 minutes of silence, 22,000 people lost the chance to run. 22,000 people lost 7 minutes that could have saved their lives. What would you have done if the sea receded 100 yards in front of you with no visible explanation? Comment from which city you are watching this, because what comes next documents exactly what happened when that first 30-foot wave hit the coast, and why the structures that promised safety collapsed in seconds. At 9:22 in the morning, the first wave hit the Patong coast, reaching a height of 10 meters. The structure of the Sofitel Magic Lagoon in Khao Lak had been designed with reinforced concrete pillars, 60 centimeters in diameter, specified to withstand Category 4 winds according to the Thai building code. The problem was, the code didn't account for horizontal water pressure moving at 80 kilometers per hour. The first floor pillars collapsed in 17 seconds. The 6-story building tilted towards the sea, and the ground floor rooms were buried under 120,000 tons of muddy water mixed with debris. In the restaurant of the Khao Lak Beach Resort Hotel, 37 people were having breakfast when the water burst through the glass doors. A 28-year-old Thai waitress named Siraporn saw the wave approaching from the kitchen. She ran towards the back exit, shouting in Thai, but the tourists didn't understand. She got out. They stood there, trying to process what they were seeing. 17 seconds later, the water covered the restaurant up to the ceiling. Siraporn survived by clinging to a palm tree for 40 minutes. 35 of the 37 people in the restaurant drowned or were crushed by furniture swept away by the current. bodies were found up to 3 kilometers inland, some still holding their cutlery. But there was something later records revealed that no one mentioned in the immediate official reports. The higher-end hotels in Phuket and Khao Lak had infinity pools built at sea level, designed to create the visual illusion that the pool water merged with the ocean horizon. These pools were filled with seawater pumped directly from the beach. When the wave hit the coast, the water not only struck the structures from the front, but also invaded the pool's underground piping systems, generating upward internal pressure that burst floors and walls from below. The Le Méridien Hotel in Phuket lost its entire ground floor due to internal structural collapse before the water even reached the main facade. No one saw it coming. On Phi Phi Beach, where there were no high-rise hotels but wooden bungalows built 3 meters above sea level, the devastation was different but equally lethal. The bungalows didn't collapse. They were ripped from their foundations and swept inland like matchboxes. A 34-year-old Swedish tourist named Lars Eriksson was in his bungalow when he felt the structure move. He opened the door and saw that he was floating. The bungalow had been lifted by the wave and was being carried towards the jungle at increasing speed. Lars jumped into the muddy water. He was dragged for 200 meters until a tree branch pierced his left side. He became trapped. The water kept rising. It reached his neck, then his mouth. He closed his eyes, expecting to drown, but the wave reached its peak and began to recede. Lars survived. He was rescued 6 hours later by a Thai search team. The branch had pierced his liver, but it had held him in place as the water receded. If he had continued to float with the undertow, he would have been dragged back out to sea like 1,200 other bodies that were never recovered. It took 22 minutes for the water to fully recede back into the ocean. When the level dropped, what remained visible was not just destruction, it was absence. Hotels without facades, overturned vehicles inside shops, fishing boats stranded in the middle of streets 400 meters from the coast, and bodies. Hundreds of bodies trapped among debris, some still with cameras hanging around their necks. But what rescue teams found in the following hours revealed something that changed the official understanding of what truly happened that morning. In the basement of the Sofitel Hotel, where the emergency generators and security control center were located, investigators found the surveillance video system intact. The cameras had continued recording for the first 4 minutes of the impact until the water reached the generators and everything shut down. The images showed the hotel's interior during the initial minutes of the impact, a perspective almost never captured by tourist cameras. They showed the exact moment hotel staff, receptionists, bellhops, waitresses, managers ran towards the stairs trying to evacuate. But they also showed that some ran in the opposite direction, towards the guest rooms. A 24-year-old Thai bellhop named Thawatchai was recorded knocking on doors on the second floor, shouting in English. He managed to wake a German family. They rushed to the stairs. Thawatchai kept knocking on doors. The last image on the video shows him knocking on the door of room 212. The water was already rising up the stairs behind him. The door didn't open. Thawatchai drowned in the second-floor hallway. The German family he woke survived. Hotel records revealed that Thawatchai had no official instructions to evacuate guests. There was no protocol. There was no training. He made that decision alone. In the 17 seconds he had to choose between running for the exit or running to the rooms. He chose to run to the rooms. But there was something else in those videos that investigators didn't expect to find. The videos recovered 3 weeks after the tsunami revealed aspects that did not appear in the initial official reports. In Khao Lak, after the first wave receded, dragging debris and bodies out to sea, German and Swedish tourists returned to the hotel ruins with cameras in hand. They filmed the damage. Some entered destroyed rooms looking for luggage, What investigators found in these videos was a pattern of behavior that was repeated on all affected beaches. A pattern that explains why the second wave, which arrived 17 minutes after the first, killed more people than the initial one. That pattern had a technical name in evacuation protocols that Thailand never implemented. And there was something else. In Patong, 43 tourists who survived the first wave were recorded by security cameras running back towards the beach, not towards higher ground. They ran towards the sea. Forensic psychologists who analyzed this behavior found something that contradicts everything believed about survival instinct in natural disasters. Something that could change how we understand why 22,000 people didn't run when there was still time. This documented behavior contradicts everything you thought you knew about human instinct in the face of disaster. If this reconstruction is revealing details that rarely appear in documentaries about this disaster, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next concludes the investigation with evidence that changed international evacuation protocols. Would you have run to higher ground, or would you have tried to save someone first? Comment from which city you are watching this. The accounts from those final hours before the tsunami present us with an uncomfortable truth. It's not just about nature's brutal force, but about the fragility of our perception. We were so deeply immersed in normalcy, in the deceptive beauty of the landscape, that a drastic change in the sea's natural pattern was interpreted as an opportunity, a fleeting curiosity worth filming. This reconstruction reveals that the ocean gave us several clear signals. The monumental retreat of the water, the exposed corals, the sudden silence of the birds, a chain of subtle warnings that, veiled by routine and the expectation of pleasure, went unheeded. The devastating irony is that the very technology that could have saved lives, cell phones and cameras, became an instrument of fascination, distracting victims from their impending doom. The images from those last hours, captured by those who perished, stand as monuments to our collective blindness. There is no judgment in this statement, only the cold testimony of what it means to face the unknown when one is completely ignorant of its power. December the 26th, 2004, a day etched not only in the memory of survivors, but in the very DNA of the seemingly peaceful beaches that stretched out before them. Now, every wave that breaks on those shores carries with it the echo of the laughter and joy that once filled their edges, a somber reminder of normalcy's transience. This catastrophe not only buried cities underwater, but also drowned innocence. It forever changed humanity's relationship with a sea that, until then, seemed like a harmless playground. Today, every time we gaze at the ocean horizon, a new fear lingers, subtle but present. What other signs of disruption, however obvious, do we continue to ignore in our daily lives, convinced that everything is fine?